שבת שלום, ועכשיו לרעיון המרכזי שלנו הערב. טומי רובינסון הוא פעיל בריטי שארגן בחודש שעבר את ההפגנה הגדולה בתולדות בריטניה נגד המפגינים הפרו-פלסטינים שלדבריו משתלטים על המדינה. הוא מדבר ללא הרף על הסכנה הפנימית הנשקפת לבריטניה מהאסלאם הקיצוני, והוא הגיע עד לכאן לישראל שלנו כדי לתמוך בנו, וגם, תאמינו או שלא, כדי ללמוד מאיתנו. טומי רובינסון, good evening. Thank you so much for being with us. You're here in Israel. What brought you here, aside from the upgrade in the weather?
The upgrade in the weather. I'm honoured to be here at the invite of Minister Chikri. That's a great honour for me. I'm here as a friend of Israel. I'm also here to pay my respects and show my solidarity with the people of Israel on such an important day as the 2-year anniversary from October 7th.
Thank you. Around the world, we see this rage of Jew hatred. And we see vast numbers of pro-Palestinian protesters taking over the streets of Britain. How do you want your country to take this on, Tommy?
So since October 7th, that's what we have seen every single week. We've seen my capital city, our country's capital city, taken over by pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah terrorist supporters. That's what we've seen. And we've seen our government and our police fail to deal with it or fail to tackle with it. We've actually seen our government surrender to them most recently by recognising the Palestinian state, which I've just watched the full video today of what happened on October 7th. And to see and think that my government, that represent me, rewarded those terrorists by recognising that. Remember that my government, what I'd like the people of Israel to know is that my government, Keir Starmer's government, were elected from 9 million votes. 20 million people didn't vote. Okay, 80% of the public did not vote for that government. So what you've seen on every Western capital, in every Western nation, is pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian voices, because they are the people that have been allowed to have the voice. That's been allowed and celebrated by the establishment, by the far left. They're the voice that have been allowed, and by the media, by the BBC. Their betrayal and their representation they gave to the public of Israel is totally wrong. So the public have been, certain elements of the public have been radicalised, but what you saw on September 13th was millions of British patriots coming into our capital city to regain it. And those millions of British patriots do not hate Israel, do not hate Jews. The Star of David was welcomed on the streets of our event, and if it was put to a British public vote, people would not have voted to recognise a Palestinian state. So whilst the vocal minority have been given the voice, the silent majority are now rising.
Are you worried that the situation will get even worse, Tommy?
I'm worried. It's why I first come to Israel in 2016. I first come here to understand how the Jewish population in Israel lives surrounded by jihad, because I knew what the future of Great Britain was. We are going to be surrounded by jihad. There are 40,000. When I think of that 5,000 to 6,000 militant jihadists crossed the border into Israel and the destruction and the death and carnage they left, there are 40,000 British Muslims on a terror watch list now. Europe is imploding. European leaders are surrendering to jihad. I think Israel and the world need to see that Qatar and Iran have proxy armies on the streets. Before Israel had even reacted to this war against its people, there was calls for a ceasefire, there was mass demonstrations on the streets, the lie of genocide was already being pumped. We literally have proxy armies on the streets. So I am concerned for the future of my country. It's why for the last 15 years I've dedicated my life to highlighting and awakening the public to the dangers we face from the threat of jihad. But I do take some optimism in the fact that I felt like I've been banging my head against a wall for a decade. I don't anymore. I don't anymore. The public are awake. Trust me by the reception I receive everywhere I go. The British public are waking up to this danger. They are fed up of their government. They're fed up of the betrayal. We're insulted by the betrayal of our government on Israel. And what Jews need to understand in Great Britain, there's only 300,000 Jews. There's 5 million Muslims. Those Muslims will regain Labour in power. Labour are simply pandering and appeasing. At our last election, 5 MPs were elected who are pro-Hamas. They were elected as independents. Usually, the Muslim vote would have gone to the Labour Party. So the Labour Party are trying to win back their Muslim vote. How do they do that? By opposing Hamas, by appeasing Hamas, by recognising a Palestinian state. So yeah, I am concerned. I'm major concerned. I'm major concerned for the future of Europe, but I'm here to form friendships, to learn, to listen, to understand how a strong conservative government tackles jihad rather than surrenders to it.
Wow, may I ask, what have you learned from us, from the Israelis, Tommy?
What have I learned? I've learned by watching your government that strength. I know from growing up. I grew up in a town called Luton. When I was born in 1982, there was one mosque. There's now 45. Luton was the home for al-Mujahideen, the biggest prescribed terrorist organisation. 60% of British Muslims in prison for terrorism are ex-members of that group. I went to school with some of them. I grew up with them. I know the only language they understand. They see appeasement and cowardly acts. They run all over it. I know the only language they understand is strength. That's all they understand. So what have I learned? I've learned watching the Israeli government, I've seen strength. And I've seen nothing but strength. And that is the only way, I know through growing up, that's the only way to tackle this problem. Not weakness, not cowardice, not appeasement. And I think even when I come here last time in 2015, I met an Israeli girl who, and her family and generations of family were dragged out of Gaza by the IDF. She was distraught about it. She was still very upset. And I believe back then, the Israeli government was still under a level of appeasement, thinking that you can negotiate with these groups. There's no negotiating with Hezbollah. There's no negotiating with Hamas. They want the destruction of the West. They want the destruction of Israel. They want the death to Jews. They want the death to all of us. So I'm here to learn about Zionism as well. I've always classed myself as a proud Zionist. I believe in a homeland for the Jews. There's 55 Islamic nations. Why can't the Jews have one? When you look at the history of this land, it's Jewish land. It's Jews coming home. And what I can't understand is as Jews are under attack in every Western nation due to the rise of Islam and the rise of the far left, they don't even want them to have a home to escape to. So I'm a proud supporter of Israel, but I have watched in this conflict what I would say is strength and strong leadership, and the way that the Israeli government are not bothered about these weak, coward leaders now in the West, because they're not leaders. They're not leaders.
Wow. Tommy Robinson, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for hugging us. I hope to see you soon.